Cole walked through the tall gates of the Intergalactic Martial Academy with his heart racing. He was only 19, and already he felt the weight of countless eyes watching him. His footsteps echoed across the polished floors of the training hall. Around him were young warriors from dozens of alien worlds, their scales glittering, their eyes glowing, their tall frames built for combat. Compared to them, he looked small, fragile, and out of place. The academy was famous across the galaxy. Here, the most talented fighters studied ancient techniques, blending martial traditions from different civilizations into one shared discipline, galactic. To be admitted here was considered an honor beyond measure. For a human boy from Earth, it was also a chance to prove that his species could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's finest. But from the very first day, the whispers had begun. "Look, the human," one reptilian student sneered. His voice carried through the hall like a hiss. "They are weak bones and soft skin," said another with a pair of shining tusks. "What can he hope to do against us?" Heard every word, but he kept his face calm. He did not answer them. His father's voice still lived in his memory. "You don't prove strength with words, son, you prove it with action." He remembered those evenings back home in the small, worn-down gym his father ran in their neighborhood. The mats had been old, the walls chipped, but the spirit inside that place had been unbreakable. His father taught him that was not about size or power, but about timing, leverage, and the will to rise no matter how many times you fall. Carried those lessons with him across the stars. Now, standing in this vast academy, he felt the same determination burning in his chest. The first training session was held in the central arena, a massive circle with a floor designed to shift its weight and pressure according to the fighters' movements. Dozens of alien cadets gathered there, their colorful uniforms glowing under the arena lights. Their instructors were towering beings with eyes that missed nothing, masters who had studied combat for centuries. When entered the circle, the laughter grew louder. Some of the cadets whispered to each other, pointing at his lean frame. A few even made mock gestures, pretending to trip or fall as if to say the human would last only seconds. But did not let their voices enter his heart. He bowed respectfully toward the instructors, just as his father had taught him. The session began. Pairs were formed, each cadet facing an opponent, was matched with a towering alien student whose arms were like steel beams. The alien grinned down at him, certain that the fight would be over in moments. The instructor shouted the signal, and the alien lunged. For an instant, felt the crushing strength rushing toward him, but instead of meeting it head-on, he shifted his weight, guiding the alien's movement past him. The alien stumbled, surprised that the smaller human had not been flattened instantly. Did not attack back, not yet. He only stepped into a stance, calm and steady, his eyes focused. A silence fell over the mocking crowd. They had expected him to fall within seconds. Instead, he was standing strong, his balance perfect, his focus sharp. The instructor nodded slightly, noticing what others had missed. The human boy was not afraid, he was patient. After the session ended, many of the aliens still mocked him, saying his survival was only luck, yet a few of them had stopped laughing. They had seen something unusual in his movements, a rhythm they could not understand. Walked out of the arena alone, but his heart was steady. He knew the road ahead would be hard, filled with more mockery and doubt. But he also knew something they did not. Humans had a gift no one could measure, the will to endure, the power to adapt, and the courage to keep fighting even when the world thought they had already lost. And deep inside, he promised himself, one day he would make them see it. The next morning, the academy's halls were filled with a different kind of energy. A notice appeared on the digital boards that lined the corridors. Trial match, Arena 2, Human Cadet Cole vs. of. The announcement spread like wildfire. By midday, whispers turned into shouts. Was no ordinary student. He was the son of a noble house, tall and broad, his skin covered in armored ridges that made him nearly invincible in close combat. He had been trained since childhood in the ways of Galactic and carried a reputation for ending matches in seconds. Many students idolized him, others feared him. To face him was to face humiliation. And yet had been chosen. He walked quietly toward the arena, his footsteps steady even as his chest tightened. He knew this was no ordinary sparring session. This was a challenge that could decide his place in the academy. Lose, and humans might be banned from training here ever again. Win, and he would shock every doubter who had laughed at him since the day he arrived. The arena was already full when he entered. Rows upon rows of alien cadets sat on floating benches, their voices buzzing like a storm. Some shouted his name in support, others whispered about the foolish human who dared to stand against him. At the center stood himself, towering with muscles like stone, his eyes burned with pride. He looked down at and gave a cruel smile. So this is the human's deep voice rumbled across the arena. I expected more. You are barely half my size. Do you truly believe you can stand against me? Did not answer. He only bowed slightly, his eyes calm, his face steady. The referee, a stern alien master with silver eyes, raised his hand. This is a trial match. Rules are simple, no weapons, only technique. Victory is decided by submission or incapacitation. Begin when the signal sounds. The crowd leaned forward in anticipation. The moment felt heavy, like the entire galaxy's eyes were upon the young human. Took a step closer, his armored feet shaking the ground. When I defeat you, he said loudly so the whole arena could hear, let this be proof that humans have no place in our traditions. Some of the cadets laughed, others clapped in approval. Still remained silent, his father's words echoed in his mind. Respect is not taken by shouting, it is earned by standing firm. The signal rang out. Charged forward instantly, his massive arms wide, aiming to crush in a single move. Gasps filled the arena as the human seemed too slow, too fragile to react. But at the last moment stepped aside, guiding weight past him with a smooth, practiced motion. The alien stumbled just slightly, but enough to draw surprise from the watching crowd. Growled, his pride stung. Lucky. He attacked again, faster this time. His hands swung like hammers but moved with precision. He did not fight with force, he fought with timing. Every step, every turn, every grip was measured. His body flowed like water, redirecting strength back at him. From the stands, the cadets grew restless. This was not what they expected. The human was not falling, he was holding his ground. The duel continued for several minutes, growing angrier with every failed attempt to end the match quickly. However, grew calmer. He studied his opponent's movements, noticing patterns, small weaknesses in his stance that others ignored. Finally, shouted in frustration, I will crush you, human, and launched forward with all his strength. Saw his chance. With perfect timing, he shifted his weight and caught Sa's arm. Using leverage instead of power, he redirected the alien's massive body into a throw. The entire arena shook as crashed onto the ground, stunned and breathless. For a moment, silence filled the hall. No one moved, no one spoke. Did not celebrate, he simply stepped back, breathing steady, his eyes calm. He had not humiliated. He had only proven that humans were not as weak as the galaxy believed. The referee's voice finally broke the silence. The trial match will continue, but the human has shown skill. The crowd erupted in shouts and whispers, their voices a mix of disbelief and awe. Some still laughed, claiming it was luck. But others had seen something undeniable in those few moments, the strength of a fighter who used more than muscle, a fighter who relied on patience, technique, and will. Left the arena quietly, but inside his resolve burned brighter than ever. The road was long and would not forgive this humiliation. Yet knew one truth, he had taken the first step toward proving humanity's place among the stars. Night fell over the intergalactic martial academy, and the once busy training halls grew quiet. The neon lights of distant planets shimmered through the tall glass walls, bathing the academy in a soft glow. Most cadets were asleep, their bodies resting after long hours of practice. But Cole sat alone in the smaller training chamber, the cold floor beneath him and the silence heavy around him. He closed his eyes, steadying his breath. Tomorrow would not be just another day. Tomorrow he would face again, this time in front of themselves. The whispers in the academy had already spread across the galaxy. Entire communities waited to see if the human boy would stand or fall. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Was stronger, taller, and built like living armor. What chance did a human have against such power? Clenched his fists, feeling the tremor in his hands. The voices of the mocking cadets echoed in his memory, sharp as blades. But then another voice came, his father's, calm, steady, and warm. Son, is not about being the strongest. It is about being when someone gives you their weight, you use it against them. When someone shows you pride, you turn it into weakness. Remember, even the largest opponent can fall if you know where to place your strength. Breathed deeply, letting those words sink in. He remembered the long nights in their small gym back on Earth. The smell of old mats, the sound of his father's steady footsteps circling him, the lessons repeated until his muscles remembered them better than his mind. He rose to his feet and began moving slowly across the training mat. His body flowed through techniques, gripping invisible arms, turning against invisible strength. He repeated the motions again and again, his body sweating, his breath quickening. Every throw, every hold, every escape was sharpened like a blade. Outside the training chamber, footsteps echoed. An instructor with silver eyes stood at the door, watching quietly. He had seen many students prepare for trials, but there was something different about this human. There was no arrogance in him, no hunger for glory. There was only a deep, burning focus. The instructor stepped inside and said softly, "Why do you fight, human?" Paused. He had not expected company. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and answered honestly, "I fight because they think we are weak. I fight because if I fall, then every human will be seen as nothing more than fragile bones and soft skin. I fight because I want to prove my people belong here." The instructor studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "A noble reason, but remember, strength alone will not save you. Patience will, technique will. Do not fight pride with your own. Let him destroy himself with it." Bowed his head in gratitude. Those words only deepened his resolve. Later that night, he lay in his small quarters, staring at the ceiling. He thought about Earth, about his mother's smile, about the crowded streets of his neighborhood, about children watching him leave with hopeful eyes. They had believed in him when no one else had. Tomorrow, he would not fight for himself alone. He would fight for them too. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, his dreams were filled with images of his father standing beside him, guiding his hands, whispering encouragement. Morning arrived swiftly. The academy woke to a storm of energy. Cadets filled the corridors, rushing toward the grand arena. News had spread that this duel would be decisive. If won, humans would rise in respect. If he lost, they would be cast down in shame. As he stepped out of his quarters, he felt hundreds of eyes on him. Some looked with scorn, others with curiosity. A few even carried hope. Did not look at them. His gaze stayed forward, steady and calm. Inside, however, his heart beat like a drum. He whispered to himself, just loud enough to hear, 14 seconds, that's all I need. With those words, he walked toward destiny. The grand arena of the Intergalactic Martial Academy was alive with sound. Thousands of cadets filled the floating seats, their voices clashing like thunder. Some cheered for the noble son of, while others whispered curiously about the human boy who dared to face him. The energy was electric, heavy with expectation. At the center of the massive circle stood Cole. His uniform was simple, his frame lean compared to the towering figures around him, yet his posture was calm, his eyes focused. He did not move nervously, nor did he bow under the weight of countless alien stares. He simply stood ready, just as his father had taught him. Across from him, entered with the pride of royalty. His armor-like skin glistened under the arena lights, and his heavy steps made the ground vibrate. The crowd roared his name, raised one arm in acknowledgement, his sharp teeth showing as he grinned. To him, this match was already over. He looked at it as one would look at an insect, small and unworthy. "Today," shouted, his voice echoing, "the galaxy will see the truth. Humans do not belong in our traditions. I will end this in moments." The crowd cheered, though some murmurs of doubt lingered. They had seen the trial match. They had seen the human endure. Could he surprise them again? They appeared on the elevated platform above the arena, their cloaks flowing like shadows. One of them, the eldest with glowing silver eyes, raised his hand. The voices in the arena fell silent. "This is the duel of honor," they announced. "No weapons, no outside interference. The fight continues until one submits or can no longer stand. May truth be revealed in skill." The signal bell rang. Wasted no time, he lunged forward with terrifying speed for his size, his massive arms stretching to grab and crush him. The sound of his charge alone shook the arena. Gasps filled the air. But did not flinch. He moved lightly, stepping aside just before the heavy arms could wrap around him, stumbled slightly but regained balance, growling. "Cowardly dodges," spat, "stand and fight." Said nothing, his eyes stayed locked, his breathing steady. He circled, his feet gliding over the mat, watching every shift of shoulders, every movement of his legs. He was not chasing power. He was searching for the right moment. The second attack came harder, swung like a hammer, aiming to strike down. Once again, avoided, redirecting the momentum with a soft touch of his arm, using the alien's strength against him. His own weight carried him forward, forcing him to catch himself before falling. The crowd grew restless. Some shouted insults at the human, calling him weak for not attacking. Others sat quietly, their eyes narrowing as they began to see what he was doing. Minutes passed, attacked again and again, each strike like thunder, each step shaking the ground, and each time evaded, redirected, or slipped free. His movements were fluid, almost like water flowing around stone. Inside's heart pounded. He could feel the immense power of pressing closer, the danger real with every attack, but he remembered his father's words, "Patience will win when strength cannot." Finally, his anger boiled over. His pride would not allow this game of evasion any longer. With a roar, he threw all of his strength into a final charge, his arms wide, determined to crush the human once and for all. And that was the moment he'd waited for. In one smooth motion, he stepped aside, caught his arm, and shifted his weight perfectly. Using the alien's own momentum, he spun and executed a flawless throw. His massive body lifted from the ground and crashed down onto the mat with an impact that shook the arena. Gasps and shouts erupted from the crowd. The noble son of had been thrown, not by brute force but by precision. Stepped back, his chest rising and falling, his eyes calm. He had not finished yet, but the message was clear. The human was no ordinary student. Above, the leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. The match was not over, but something had already changed in the hearts of those watching. For the first time, many believed the human might truly win. The arena trembled with energy. Lay on the mat for a brief moment, his pride wounded, his anger burning hotter than fire. He had never been thrown before, never humiliated in front of so many eyes. Slowly he pushed himself up, his ridged skin scraping against the floor. The crowd roared with noise, some cheering, some laughing in disbelief, others waiting to see what would happen next. Stood a few steps away, calm and steady. His breathing was even, though his heart raced inside his chest. He had trained for this moment his whole life, but he knew the hardest part was still ahead. He could not let fear, pride, or overconfidence guide him now. He had to be sharper than ever. His voice thundered, "You dare to shame me, human? You think one lucky move proves anything? I will end you here and now." He stomped forward, each step echoing across the arena. His anger made him faster, but also reckless. His massive frame lunged again, his movements wild with rage. His eyes focused sharply. This was the opening he had waited for. His father's voice whispered in his memory, "When they lose control, you stay in control. When they use strength, you use timing. Let them fall by their own weight." The moment came. Swung his arm in a wide arc, trying to crush the smaller human, but slipped underneath, catching the arm with perfect grip. In one fluid motion, he pivoted his hips, redirected the force, and threw again, harder this time. The noble's body slammed into the mat, the sound echoing like thunder. The crowd erupted, voices overlapping in shock and amazement. The alien who was supposed to finish the fight in seconds was now the one being dominated. But did not stop. He knew hesitation could end everything. With speed and precision, he locked his arm, twisting it into a submission hold that even the strongest warriors could not escape. Struggled, his powerful body thrashing, but every movement only tightened the hold. His strength meant nothing against the perfect leverage of. The seconds ticked by, 1, 2, 3. The crowd grew louder. Some shouted for it to break free, others cried out in disbelief at what they were witnessing. 4, 5, 6. Roared in pain and frustration, but his body was trapped. His pride told him to resist, but his body screamed against it. 7, 8, 9. His grip held firm, his face was calm, his body steady, every part of him focused on this single moment. 10, 11, 12. The noble's strength faded, his struggles weakening. His pride was collapsing beneath the weight of reality. 13, 14. Silence fell, his hand tapped against the mat, the universal signal of submission. The referee's voice rang out clear and strong, "Match over, victory, Cole." The arena exploded with sound. Shock, disbelief, awe, it all blended into one storm of voices. For the first time in the history of the Academy, a human had not only survived against a noble warrior but defeated him in less than half a minute. Released the hold and stood, bowing respectfully toward his opponent. He did not raise his arms or shout in triumph. He did not need to. His victory spoke louder than any words could. Lay on the mat, his chest heaving, his pride shattered. For a long moment, he refused to look at the human, but finally, with a heavy breath, he turned his head and gave a slow nod, a silent admission of respect. They rose from their seats above, their silver eyes watching closely. One of them, the eldest, spoke with a voice that carried through every corner of the arena. "In 14 seconds, this human has done what no one believed possible. He has shown patience over pride, technique over power, discipline over chaos. He has earned not only victory, but respect." Bowed again, his heart full. He thought of Earth, of his father's lessons, of the children who would hear this story one day and believe in themselves. He had not fought for glory alone, he had fought for all of them. And now, the galaxy could no longer ignore what a human could achieve. The arena was still buzzing with noise. The moment tapped the mat, history had been made. Many cadets still could not believe what their eyes had seen. A human, the smallest and most underestimated student in the academy, had defeated a noble of in only 14 seconds. Stood in the center of the mat, breathing slowly, his body calm though his heart raced inside. He bowed once more to the above. The noise around him was loud, yet he felt a deep silence in his mind. All he could hear was his father's voice, steady and warm. Respect is earned, not demanded. Let your actions speak. They stepped down from their platform. Their long cloaks trailed behind them as they moved toward the human boy. The crowd grew quiet, every cadet leaning forward, waiting to see what would happen. The eldest, a tall being with silver eyes and skin marked by glowing lines of age, stopped in front of. His voice echoed across the arena. Cole, 19 years of Earth, today you have shown the true heart of. You did not rely on strength, for you had less. You did not rely on pride, for you were mocked. You relied on patience, on skill, on the spirit to endure. These are the marks of a true master. The words carried power, and the silence of the crowd deepened. Many cadets who had once laughed now lowered their eyes in shame. He raised his hand, and an assistant stepped forward carrying a black belt woven with shining threads of silver. It was the Black Belt of Galactic, a title given only to those who had proven mastery after decades of training. To grant it to someone so young and a human at that was unheard of. By the authority of the Academy, they declared, we grant you the title of Black Belts. Gasps filled the air. Even, still kneeling on the mat with heavy breaths, lifted his head in surprise. Never had such a decision been made in front of the entire Academy. Bowed deeply, accepting the belt with both hands, his voice was quiet but clear enough for all to hear. I am honored. This is not just for me, this is for my people, for my world. Thank you. He tied the belt around his waist, the black and silver shining under the arena lights. For a brief moment, he felt the weight of the entire galaxy upon his shoulders. Yet it was not a burden. It was a promise that humans could rise, adapt, and stand equal with any species. The crowd erupted again, but this time not with laughter or doubt. It was applause. Some clapped slowly at first, then more joined in until the entire arena shook with respect. The sound was not just for a boy from Earth, it was for what he represented. Slowly rose to his feet. His pride was wounded, but his honor as a warrior demanded acknowledgement. He stepped forward, towering over, and extended his hand. The arena grew quiet again, waiting. Looked at him, then reached out and shook the massive alien hand. His voice was low but strong. You fought with honor. I was wrong to mock you. From this day, I recognize humans as worthy. The words struck deeper than the applause. Respect from an enemy meant more than any cheer. They nodded, satisfied. So it is written. Humanity has earned its place in our traditions. Let this be remembered in the records of the Academy. As left the arena, cadets parted in silence, watching him with new eyes. No longer the outsider, no longer the joke. He was now the symbol of something greater. Walking down the long corridor, the black belt tied firmly at his waist, whispered to himself, Father, we did it. And though his father was far away, he felt the man's presence in his heart, proud and smiling. The days after the duel changed everything. What had started as whispers of disbelief soon spread across the entire academy and then across the galaxy. The story of a 19-year-old human defeating of in just 14 seconds traveled faster than light itself. Every news channel, every broadcast station, every interstellar forum carried the name Cole. At first, many species dismissed it as an exaggeration. But when the Academy released the official record of the match, including every move, every hold, and the exact time, disbelief turned into amazement. A human had done what no one thought possible. For life inside the Academy changed quickly. The same cadets who had mocked him now looked at him with respect and in some cases even admiration. Some bowed their heads when he passed. Others asked to train with him, curious to learn how he had used patience and skill to overcome a warrior much larger and stronger than himself. But never let pride guide him. He remembered his father's lessons every day. When students asked how he won, he simply answered, it wasn't about strength. It was about waiting, watching, and never giving up. His humility impressed the instructors as much as his victory. Beyond the academy walls, humans on Earth and in colonies across space felt a surge of pride they had never known before. For too long, humans had been called fragile, reckless, or insignificant compared to other species. Now they had a champion, someone who had shown that their kind could stand equal with any race. Children in schools practiced martial arts with new excitement, dreaming of becoming like. Families watched his match together, smiling with hope. Back in his quarters, received countless messages. Some came from Earth, where his mother's proud face appeared on a screen, tears of joy in her eyes. Others came from distant human colonies, thanking him for giving them courage. Even a few alien leaders sent respectful greetings, acknowledging his achievement. One evening, as he sat quietly after training, an instructor with silver eyes came to see him. "You do not realize it yet," the instructor said, "but you have changed how the galaxy sees your people. What you did in 14 seconds will echo for generations. This is more than victory, this is history." Lowered his head humbly, "I did what I was taught, nothing more." The instructor smiled, "And that is why you are dangerous, human, not because you fight with pride, but because you fight with purpose." In the weeks that followed, the academy invited to demonstrate his techniques to younger students. He stood before beings taller, stronger, or stranger than him, yet when he moved, all of them watched in silence. They saw how simple motions, when guided by patience and timing, could bring down even the strongest opponent. Many began to copy his style, giving it a name of respect, the flow of earth. Two changed, though his pride had suffered, he did not retreat into bitterness. He began training alongside, studying the methods he once mocked. Though the two remained rivals, a quiet respect grew between them. Their training sessions drew large crowds, and cadets said the academy had never felt so alive with energy. Months later, during a grand ceremony, the academy raised a banner in honor of his achievement. On it were written words in many languages: "Patience is strength, humanity endures." The banner hung high in the Great Hall, a reminder that even the smallest and most underestimated could rise above all odds. Stood there, looking up at the banner, his black belt tied around his waist. He felt the weight of what he had done, but also the path that lay ahead. His victory was not the end of the journey, it was only the beginning. He whispered softly so only he could hear, "This isn't just my story, this is ours, humanity." And as the galaxy moved forward, Cole's name became more than a fighter's name. It became a symbol of hope, a proof that humans, with their stubborn hearts and endless will to rise, could shine among the stars.